Hey guys, welcome to WILDsides. Today we're going to be learning how to perform CPR on Jack. So let's get right to it. First, we need an unresponsive Jack. What? Oh no, an unresponsive Jack. I've got to survey the scene to make sure that it's safe for me, because the last thing we need is 2 injured people. Looks good. So first, I have to ask for consent. Can I help you? No response means implied consent, so I am protected if something bad happens. Now I'm going to check for responsiveness. Can you hear me? And then next I will check for breathing. I don't feel any breathing. Don't hear anything. The chest isn't rising or falling. And then lastly, I'm going to check for a pulse. Now there's no pulse, so that means it's time to start CPR. I will either call 911 or instruct somebody else to. Bug over there, call 911. And then, with 911 on the way, I am clear to go ahead and start CPR. Now the proper hand positioning for chest compressions is to have your hands interlocked at the fingers. And then you will use the base of your hand right here, that little hard part on the palm, into the chest. Keep your arms locked and straight and push with your body. And one thing I'll point out real quick, that this is a very exhausting process, so feel free to move the patient around so that you can get in a proper position so that you can do proper CPR so that you don't run out of breath. Now in this scenario, Jack is an adult, so that means you're going to be pushing down 2 to 2.5 inches. And that will give the heart a good pump, and then you're going to allow it to completely recoil before pushing down again. But for demonstrative purposes, I'm not going to be compressing Jack's still beating heart. So in a backcountry scenario where paramedics may not arrive on scene very quickly, it's going to be 30 compressions to 2 breaths. And as far as compression rate, you're going to want between 100 and 120 beats per minute. Now, in a backcountry scenario where you may be away from civilization, there might not always be an AED nearby. But if there is, or the possibility of one, make sure to instruct someone to go get that as quickly as possible, because that is the best chance of getting his heart beating again. And in the scenario in which a person is passed out, there could be a number of things in their mouth, which you're going to want to try and get out as best as possible. But sometimes if the person has vomited or has blood or something, you're going to want to protect yourself and the patient. So you're going to use one of these handy dandy little CPR masks. And all that's going to do is keep your mouth from directly touching their mouth so that they don't transmit anything to you. So I'm going to put the tube into the patient's mouth and I will be able to blow air in, but sometimes when you're giving CPR, if you blow too much air and air gets into the stomach, that will cause them to puke, and that puke will not go back into my mouth. It will be deflected by the one-way valve. So let's run through the whole scenario, and this is what it looks like. So I've surveyed the scene, it's safe for me, there is no responsiveness, I've asked for consent, there's no pulse, there's no breathing, there's no AED nearby, I've asked someone to call 911, so I'm going to go ahead and begin CPR. So I will begin by placing the shield that I've got into the patient's mouth, just like that. And then I will go ahead, lock my hands together, put them on the chest, going down 2 inches to 2.5 inches, compressions with the full body, all the way, 30 of them. And then once I have done those 30 compressions, I'm going to go ahead and pinch the patient's nose, tilt their chin back to open up the airway, and then go ahead and do 1, 2 breaths. And what you're watching for is a slight rise in the chest. And you don't want to go past a slight rise, because then air will go into their stomach and then they will expel the air along with all that they've eaten for the past 24 hours or so. And then I'm going to continue going at a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. Then after that 30, I'm going to go ahead, tilt, breathe once again, and then after I've done this cycle 5 times, I'm going to go ahead and check for a pulse once again. If there is a pulse, they're good to go. They're alive and breathe, or their heart's beating again. If they're not breathing, you can go ahead and give rescue breaths, but you have got their heart started again, which was the main point of this, and to get circulation of oxygen to their brain so that no brain damage occurs. But if their heart is not beating after those 5 cycles, you're going to go ahead and start again. Now, if you know for a fact that a spinal injury has occurred on our patient, you're not going to want to pinch the nose and tilt the chin, because that is making the spine bend. So what you're going to want to do instead is move their arm down here, get behind them, and kind of push their jaw forward. Now, on a conscious patient, it's not going to go as well because their masseter is constantly tight. But on an unconscious patient, they'll be able to just push their jaw into an underbite, and then that will remove the tongue from the airway. And compressions again. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So you ready to go fishing now?
Yeah, let's go.
Alrighty. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to perform CPR on Jack, and I hope that this has inspired you to go out yourself, get CPR certified, because it can and will save lives. My name's Alec, stay wild, and I'll see you next time. And then next, I will check for breathing. There's no breathing, and that